Women of Reddit, what do you think would be the worst thing about being a man? Having to chase after women. I'd give up halfway, honestly. Overall, I think it's more difficult for guys to get to dates. Edit. Obligatory holy at you guys. You've popped my platinum, gold, and silver cherries. Thanks. And now it's easier for people I know to find my profile. Cool, 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 cool. Jake Peralta. People expecting that I could fight. Probably the stigma. I've seen a single father get shouted at for being with his kid when at a park for trying to kidnap children. The dude wanted to make his son happy, not molest him FFS. As a woman, I will never, ever have any doubt that my children are mine. Edit. Apologizes to the men whose anxiety I raised by 150%. Another edit. Thank you for the silver. Not having your emotions taken seriously, then lashing out because of it and then seen as violent because you just want to be understood. I had that with abusive parents, but normally people don't treat me that way because I'm a woman. I can't imagine what an entire life of not having your feelings acknowledged in a healthy way feels like. Suck it up and be a man. Being considered a possible threat by strangers. Probably. Like, I get it. You never know, but it would probably suck. Either that or the D and balls. Like, they're just dangling there. Are they in the way? How do you straddle stuff? Will you accidentally squish them? Do you have to like, tuck them into your underwear? Not being able to take care of children without getting dirty looks. Edit. Holy moly guacamole. Thanks for all the replies and my first silver and stuff. Oh, you got stuck taking care of the kids today. Huh, giving mom a day off. Finally, dads know what I'm talking about. Edit. Well, that blew up. Glad to see I'm not crazy. It's interesting to see the scattered few people say OMG people don't actually talk like that. And then see hundreds of other folks confirm that. Yeah, people do say that it. Only one orgasm at a time. Having to be the person physically in charge in a threatening situation. Like always being with a man when walking home from a party in a sketchy area at night. Yes, there is safety in numbers, but the dude is expected to be protective regardless of level of awareness, self-defensive, or drunkenness. That's a lot of pressure. If the women don't get wet or come or have fun in bed, it's your fault. If you don't get hard or come or have fun in bed, it's also your fault. Being expected to be more effective at physical labor. Being expected to do more dangerous work. Receiving less empathy when struggling with emotional issues. Hands down always being the villain. A colleague of mine was a bit on the heavier side, but decided to get into shape and started jogging. So he jogs around his block daily until his smartwatch tells him his quota for the day is full. That day he was a bit late but went for a jog when the sun was setting. Not many people out there, but as he was on his way, some girls saw him jogging their way, got scared and called the cops on him for obviously trying to chase them to abuse them or something. Now, the guy didn't know about the call. He just sees two girls seeing him coming, turning around and running away, and he's like, what the duck? Until the cops come for him. You know, for the biggest offense in the whole human history, trying to get fit. I felt really bad for him. I would not be allowed a moment of weakness. Bad day? You can't cry unless your mother just died. Hurt yourself? Suck it up and go to the hospital. Feeling self-conscious about your body? Nobody cares. Feeling ill? Someone has a man see old. Honestly, probably people just assuming that you'll do all of the gross shit that no one else wants to do. Fixing up the car, unclogging the toilet, cleaning out the spider webs in the attic, scrubbing the mildew out of the bathtub. Guys are just expected to do it all without complaint because that's the manly thing to do. As a woman, I find it pretty unfair. Alongside that are hiding a boner. People assuming that you can't have mental illnesses, disorders. Not being allowed to cry, show emotions, be insecure about your body. All of it is really unfair. I'm sorry guys. Being abused in public by a woman and having people laugh instead of intervening to help you. Also the whole to be a man you have to act a certain way. Brutal. You're the ones who have to kill the big hairy spider. I was raped. Haha, good one. Edit. I see a lot of men's stories in the comments, and while I don't know the perfect thing to say, thank you for having the courage to come forward. And also I'm sorry that you have such a thing to contribute to this at all. Having an even harsher reaction when I'd go against gender roles. I mean, as a woman, there's backlash sometimes. But there's a whole movement very publicized that tells me that I can do whatever I want. And duck the naysayer. I don't feel a man that would want to do something for girls or for women as that much support. Probably being forced to never, well, feel. There are so many people who make fun of guys for having feelings or even showing them. I would never be able to deal with it. And my heart broke the day my boyfriend told me his exes used to verbally abuse him for crying in front of them. Edit. Changed words because I don't want to make a personal generalization. Edit part 2. I didn't think this would blow up so fast. I've taken the afternoon into the evening reading every single one of your guys' replies. And I am genuinely devastated by some of the things I'm reading. Men. I am so sorry. Words kind of fail me right now. Because I don't know what to say to any of you. What I want to say, though, is that you are all incredibly strong human beings. And you are that, a human being, with thoughts, feelings, emotions, and dreams. Your feelings are valid. You all deserve to feel and to be seen, heard, and cared for as a human being. Being expected to be the breadwinner generally by society. Being less likely to gain custody of my own kids in a separation. Being disposable in times of war, DIY, and having to deal with my own balls. What if I sat on one? Ouch. Relationships. Getting a date with a woman. Finding a so, or even just hooking up with a woman. It all seems like bullet for men. Men are expected to initiate the conversation most of the time, and yet, I've known women who will accept dates with men they have zero interest in just to get a free meal out of it. I've known women who want men to approach them, but if the man is unattractive to her she calls them creepy or mocks them for it. Sure, not all women are like this, but you know what happens when I approach a man who isn't interested in me? He says no, thank you. I could easily get a one night stand if I wanted to, yeah. If people know about it I might be called demeaning things or people trying to shame me for it. But I just think about a time a man approaches a woman in an elevator, gets turned down, and the next day there are news articles about how men shouldn't make women uncomfortable and that conferences need to make an effort to make safe spaces for women. Men are shamed for their sexuality and no one gives a duck. A man who is unhappy in a relationship because he doesn't get to have sex as often as he would like gets to hear how no one owes you sex. Up and down. He's seen as a piece of it for even considering leaving the relationship for it. But if I am unhappy in a relationship for any reason, people will happily back me or take my side, including if it is about sex. While there are people who will shame women and their sexuality, there are just as many people who will try to empower women for being sexual. Men? Nah, you're all pigs. Potential rapists, creeps, and predators. The double standard with parenthood. This is going into the so root and relates to hookups. A woman gets pregnant and doesn't want to have a baby. She can get an abortion. She can give the child up for adoption. And in some states she can do the adoption route or even abandonment without the man's permission. And a woman who gets an abortion or adoption, well, her body, her choice. But what about the man? A woman gets pregnant and he doesn't want to have the baby. He is a deadbeat. If she keeps the baby, your money is tied to her and the child for years and you're a deadbeat for even considering anything different. Not only that, but if a man doesn't want to support a kid then don't have sex. Is often said in discussions about this even though the same ducking line is used against women by pro-lifers. It's a gross double standard and a dangerous one, making sex and relationships more tricky for men. It doesn't help that women have a huge variety of contraceptive options available to them and men only have one that isn't permanent. Marriage is tricky for men, with how easy it is for a woman to leave a marriage and claim a bunch of assets, sometimes get alimony, and take the children. Why are men risking marriage? Yes, not every marriage is so clear-cut and sometimes the woman is making sacrifices herself which could make it difficult for her to get back onto her feet after a divorce. But come on, women aren't helpless delicate flowers anymore. Women aren't solely reliant on their husbands and will be devastated after a divorce, at least not in the United States. I acknowledge this as someone who is married to a man. Lack of support for those who end up in abusive relationships. Abuse can come from either sex. Men can be raped and abused too. But there are so few options out there for men who need help, in addition to people often saying or joking about how he probably deserved it or that he's being weak. Eater. Since apparently I need to make it clear, yes, I am female. I was born female. I'm not a trans woman, even though I have commented in trans subreddits. It's weird to me that some of you find it hard to believe that a woman could be behind this response. But hey, now you know why I use assume I'm not. Though, having people assuming I'm a trans woman is a new one for me. Being arrested for defending myself against an abusive partner. Imagine pretty much being invisible. You get your self-worth from how well you perform at work. Perform good and you're okay day to day. Start performing bad and you want to kill yourself because your only interaction with people now is negative. Nobody cares about you. Nobody messages you. And when someone calls they want something from you. Now I don't mind helping. But damn, call me up for a beer or some camping too sometime. The hardest part is when it only is family. Your friends are gone. So you always answer for family because it's what you do. But it's always, hey man, how was your Memorial Day? If even asked. Hey, Kylie is moving this weekend to college and we'd like to try and get it done in one shot. Are you busy Saturday? Oh, you work? Well, okay, are you free Sunday? Cool, well can you come Sunday then? We'd love to see you. We miss you so much. You never come out and see us. And you agree because you don't go see them. Because they all get together on Saturdays while you work. So now you feel bad for working and you now lose your day off from being bossed around and unpaid by people who always invite you to it that happens on Saturday. Then make you feel bad about it. So now you're the asshole. While all of this happens. While you're carrying the 1,200 pound Bowflex that hasn't been used in the family for 5 years up 5 flights of stairs. None of these people wished you happy birthday last year. Edit. Well, I live in Idaho. Seems like I have some friends that would like to drink beer and go camping. HMU. I'll bring meat and fire. Let's get drunk then tomorrow on our way out pick up some trash left over at other camps. Because we pack in pack out. I would be terrified of my D getting stuck in a zipper. I thought this article hit some of the highlights. Crossing the divide. Do men really have it easier? Here are some excerpts. I emphasized the parts that leaped out at me. Excerpts. More than Tristan Cotton. 50. Berkeley, California. More than a couple of years after my transition. I had a grad student I'd been mentoring. She started coming onto me. Stalking me. Sending me emails and texts. My advisor and the deans are both women, so laughed it off. More than it went on for the better part of a year. And that was the year that I was going up for tenure. It was a very scary time. I felt very worried that if the student felt I was not returning her attention, she would claim that I had assaulted her. More than I felt like as a guy. I was not taken seriously. I had experienced harassment as a female person at another university and I had reacted immediately. Sending a police escort with me to and from campus. I felt like if I had still been in my old body I would have gotten a lot more support. More than Xander Cake. 52. San Diego, California. More than prior to my transition. I was an outspoken radical feminist. I spoke up often, loudly and with confidence. I was encouraged to speak up. I was given awards for my efforts. Literally, so it was like, oh, yeah, speak up, speak out. More than when I speak up now, I am often given the direct or indirect message that I am mansplaining, taking up too much space or asserting my white male heterosexual privilege. More than. I do notice that some women do expect me to acquiesce or concede to them more now. Let them speak first. Let them board the bus first. Let them sit down first. And so on. More than. What continues to strike me is the significant reduction in friendliness and kindness now extended to me in public spaces. More than it now feels as though I am on my own. No one, outside of family and close friends, is paying any attention to my well-being. More than I can recall a moment where this difference hit home. A couple of years into my medical gender transition, I was traveling on a public bus early one weekend morning. There were 6 people on the bus, including me. More than one was a woman. She was talking on a mobile phone very loudly and remarked that men are such assholes. Tani immediately looked up at her and then around at the other men. Not one had lifted his head to look at the woman or anyone else. More than the woman saw me look at her and then commented to the person she was speaking with about some asshole on the bus right now looking at me. Tani was stunned, because I recall being in similar situations, but in the reverse. Many times, more than a man would say or do something deemed obnoxious or offensive, and I would find solidarity with the women around me as we made eye contact, rolled our eyes and maybe even commented out loud on the situation. I'm not sure I understand why the men did not respond, but it made a lasting impression on me. More than Chris Edwards, 49, Boston, Massachusetts. More than the hormones made me more impatient. I had lots of female friends and one of the qualities they loved about me was that I was a great listener. More than after being on testosterone, they informed me that my listening skills weren't what they used to be. More than here's an example. I'm driving with one of my best friends, Beth, and I ask her, is your sister meeting us for dinner? 10 minutes later she's still talking and I still have no idea if her sister is coming. More than so finally, I couldn't take it anymore, and I snapped and said, is she coming or not? Videos. Raising Cain. Exploring the inner lives of America's boys. This is a documentary. Excerpt of description. More than this 2-hour documentary provides surprising new research about boys' inner workings, dispelling a number of commonly held misconceptions, and highlights innovative programs that are bringing out the best in boys. Self-Made Man. One Woman's Year Disguised as a Man. Also a book. Podcasts. The Lonely American Man. This American Life 220. Testosterone. This podcast was fantastic. Articles. Are women more emotionally intelligent than men? Redditor to Redditor. Male mentorship and social media. Men have no friends and women bear the burden. Warning to guys. The first half of the article can be rage-inducing because it's like it's saying even when men are suffering, women are still the bigger victims. If you want to skip that, on that article page do a Ctrl+F for Scott Shepherd and start reading from there. How men are forming men's support groups. Books. Deep Secrets. Boys' Friendships and the Crisis of Connection by Nia B. Way. Why Men Are the Way They Are by Dr. Warren Farrell. Raising Cain. Protecting the Emotional Life of Boys by Dan Kindlin and Michael Thompson. Basis for the documentary I linked above. A few more. Disclaimer. I don't necessarily agree with the conclusions, but the articles did give food for thought. A Cold War Fought by Women. Excerpt. More than stigmatizing female promiscuity, so aka slut-shaming has often been blamed on men, who have a Darwinian incentive to discourage their spouses from straying. More than. Dr. Valancourt said the experiment and other research suggests the stigma is enforced mainly by women. More than sex is coveted by men, he said. Accordingly, women limit access as a way of maintaining advantage in the negotiation of this resource. Women who make sex too readily available compromise the power-holding position of the group, which is why many women are particularly intolerant of women who are, or seem to be, promiscuous. Scientific American. Men and women can't be just friends. Excerpt. More than as a result, men consistently overestimated the level of attraction felt by their female friends and women consistently underestimated the level of attraction felt by their male friends. Men lose their minds speaking to pretty women. Excerpt. More than psychologists at Radboud University in the Netherlands carried out the study after one of them was so struck on impressing an attractive woman he had never met before that he could not remember his address when she asked him where he lived. More than. Psychologist Dr. George Fieldman, a member of the British Psychological Society, said the findings reflect the fact that men are programmed to think about ways to pass on their genes. More than when a man meets a pretty woman, he is what we call reproductively focused. The phenomenon of mate copying and how it affects our romantic choices. Excerpt. More than due to this asymmetry, mate copying is more common among females than males. In studies where women are asked to rate the attractiveness of photographs of men posed with a female partner versus alone, men pictured with a partner are generally considered more attractive. More than this finding has been replicated when participants view speed dating footage, controlling for individual characteristics. Men perceived to be more successful at the process were favored over those that were not. 2. More than a caveat to these findings is that mate copying appears to only occur if the male's previous female partner is considered attractive. In other words, men are considered more attractive only if their previous partner is regarded as beautiful. More than in socially monogamous societies. Most men will become partnered at some point. A man with a highly physically attractive partner may have something desirable that a man with a less physically attractive partner does not, if only. Gender differences and sexual regret. Excerpt. More than the 3 biggest regrets of women were, in descending order, losing their virginity with the wrong partner, cheating on a partner, and letting relationships progress to 6 too quickly. More than the 3 most common male regrets were, being too shy to indicate sexual attraction to someone, not being sexually adventurous enough in their youth, and not being adventurous enough during their single days. More than. Surprisingly, one of the common regrets among women related to having sex with a non-attractive partner. More than a partner's physical attractiveness is commonly thought of as a male preoccupation, but apparently when it comes to casual sex, women tend to raise the attractiveness bar for agreement. More than, I'll have a one-night stand with someone, but only if he looks like George Clooney. While men tend to lower it, it's just a one-nighter. Who cares if she looks like George Clooney? The constant insecurity of whether you're man enough. Being in a crowded urinal, everyone has the D's out standing next to each other. Like what the duck just makes stalls, why have them in the open? Edit. Okay, I wanna be clear, I actually don't stare at each other D so that you stand next together unless necessary. I meant that going at a crowded place and needing to peeing and just try to look straight forward and ignore the dudes near you. To everyone who thinks it has something to do with our D's balls, I promise we have much bigger problems than our nutsacks sticking to our thighs. We're increasingly assumed to be predators. Apparently, we have a suicide rate that is through the roof compared to women. We have a harder time getting custody and divorces because it's assumed that women are the obvious caretakers by default. Increasingly there's tons of stuff about girl pride, but little boys are pretty well screwed if they try to be proud of being a boy. I'll gladly take some ball sweat if all that other stuff will go away. Feeling uncomfortable or shamed for showing your emotions. It's a sad truth, but since the dawn of time, men have been encouraged to live up to the expectations of having to be tough or being a rock for the family. As a woman, I think we feel more comfortable crying and expressing our sadness. Men get sad too, and it's about time they feel free to express it as easily as women do. I would think it would be being expected to do all the heavy lifting. To me, as a 64-year-old woman, I do my best to move things on my own. If I must ask for help, I make sure my helpers are well compensated with cold tasty beverages and snacks food. Just because you're a male doesn't mean it's your legacy to be a physical workhorse. Emotional unavailability of others. As a woman, I definitely face a lot of hardships that men don't have to deal with. But when I'm at my point of breaking, sobbing and inconsolable, I know I can message one of my friends, usually one of the girls, and cry and itch to them about it, and they will listen to me and really connect with me. They will tell me how itty the person who did that is, how difficult it must be to deal with, how strong I am for persevering in the face of adversity. On the other hand, I've spent my life trying to be a non-judgmental source of venting for my male friends, and I've found that basically everyone who I'm like that with ends up either thinking I'm into them romantically, or expressing how grateful they are for something they get so little of. Guys are told to just suck it up and push their emotions down, and I think it is harmful to all of us. Most women think there's nothing wrong with being abusive and cruel with men. It's so upsetting watching women treat men like absolute it. To top it off, Men are expected to still act like a gentleman, and also they're not allowed to feel vulnerable or to feel sad, angry because some lady was just a little sassy when in reality she was being abusive. Piece of it. Edit. I'm a woman, not a heartbroken dude. Thanks for your concern lol. Also, it has come to my attention that I didn't get my point across very well. By most women I mean most women I know. I don't claim to know what most women think. I'm just talking from my experience. I've also been cruel to men. It's just too ingrained in our culture that being mean to men is acceptable. It isn't. We cannot expect to have an equal society if we don't treat men respect, tolerance and kindness. Thinking that you can treat men like it just because they're men is sexist, and we shouldn't tolerate it. We are responsible for creating the world we want to live in. Hope I explained myself better. Have a nice day. Less than 3. This is probably the most interesting women of Reddit post I've seen yet. Your balls sticking to your leg in the summertime. Not being able to show emotions as much. I'm a very emotional person. I wouldn't even be able to handle it. Let men cry. Let men be outwardly excited about things. Let men have emotional freedom. Edit. What I mean by emotional freedom is to express emotions in a way that is comfortable to you. There isn't a correct way to express emotions, but there is an incorrect way. Don't bottle up your feelings, and don't let people make you feel bad for being emotional. Having a higher suicide rate but depression and other mental illnesses being pretty taboo. Edit. As many have pointed out, women attempt suicide more often, but I feel the point still stands. Edit 2. I now know that women attempt suicide more because they are less successful. Thank you for the insight.